Alright, Grant. I answered your question earlier, and the problem is this is a little bit trickier. So what I did was I went into my mixing and I went down to the throttle to aux 2. I think yours is aux 1. And if you move the stick up, you see how nothing happens? That's because I turned it. If you scroll all the way down to switch H, yours would say on, okay? So that just means when you move your stick up, then whatever action for this mix happens. Okay, so if we go back to monitor mode, if I scroll over here, see the throttle stick as I move it up, you see how auxiliary 2 moves up? That's the retractable motor, and then the throttle engages. Except that the throttle cut's on. Okay, so turning the throttle cut off, the throttle moves up after the auxiliary 2 goes up. Okay? Sorry, trying to get the autofocus to work for you. So basically what you have to do is you have to go in and mix. From mixing, you have to go to your throttle to aux 2, change the on to, in my case, I'm going to flip the throttle cut switch, and then you want the mix to actually be active when throttle cut is off. Okay, so throttle cut's off now, so you want the mix active at that point, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to go back and you're going to have to, I want you to see the problem you're going to run into. You can go to servo setup, or you can go over to monitor. And if you go to monitor, then you can see the output. So throttle cut is off. And as you give throttle, you see how it works. Okay, now throttle cut on, you see auxiliary 2 stops moving, but it's also at the midpoint. Okay, so that means you have to add one more mix. So you'll go into mixing and you'll go, if you want this, whoops, sorry, I already used that mix. You'll go to the first blank one, you'll go normal, and you'll go switch H as your input. So you have to scroll over to H. Or whatever you're using. Okay? And then you're going to go aux 2. Okay? And then you're going to go to switch on. You're going to switch it to H. So you want this to be true when you do have your throttle cut on. And then watch what happens. So your throttle cut is currently on. So when it's off, it's going to be working just like it always had. But when your throttle cut's on, you can see it goes over to the middle. So you're going to do this offset. See what happens? Nothing. But watch this. See how it moves over? See how it's negative 100? You want it at negative 100. See how that changes when the offset's on there? So that's what that offset does. So I'm going to set that to 0. And I'm just going to use this. See how it's negative 100? That's because you're tied to the actual position of the switch as well. Okay? And you could tie it to something else too. So when that's off, it goes up like it always has. So that's cool. And it looks like you're at minus 113. So you actually need to go turn on your throttle cut and then get this to go to minus 113. Okay, so at 84%, whatever that is. So there you have it. So that's going to give you where your retractable motor will not pop up. So I'll just show you now in monitor mode. So throttle cut is on. Remember, you're paying attention to aux 2. I think yours is aux 1. So when the stick goes up, nothing happens to your motor and nothing happens to the throttle. Okay? Now when you cut that back off, the throttle cut, everything works as expected. So the thing pops up right away, then the throttle engages. Okay? So that's what you got to do. It's a little bit more complicated than I thought. I'm not going to type that in a comment, so you just get the video instead. Thanks for watching. Hope you can get it figured out, Grant.